God, that's such a good trailer. Anyway, welcome everyone to the Mario Kart Wii World Cup 2026 group drawings. I'm Scoped and I'll have the pleasure of hosting this little drawing today alongside Sparkster. How are you doing today, Sparkster?
I'm doing very good, and yeah, as you said, yeah, no, that trailer is absolutely amazing. Well done by the media staff team in the making of that. And just to catch up a bit before starting this group draw, there was a match yesterday of the play-in between Benelux and Africa, and it was an extremely great match to watch to kind of get into this World Cup vibe that we're going to be going into for the next month.
Absolutely agree. Unfortunately, was not able to catch this match, but definitely seemed like a fun watch with Benelux still handily taking over the win, even without their usual Leoth and Jeff duo that we saw in previous World Cups. So we're gonna talk about that a little more as we go for that whole group drawing. So to explain how this stream is going to go for those that have just joined, we are drawing the two groups that are going to make up the group stage for the following week. It is separated between a couple of groups, a couple of pools rather, depending on the team seeding, and one team in pot one, one team per pot is going to be selected. Pot 3 and 4 are going to have two teams in Group A and Group B. And as we select them for their group, we're going to talk about them more, present the lineup, present what we think about the team as a whole. We will be joined by Swig in hopefully around 30 minutes. We'll have to see how long it takes to get there. But yeah, we will be joined by him soon. But regardless, it should be a pretty fun little bit of just talking about every single team, talking about their chances. If you're used to the previous World, for example, the previous World Cup, some of these standings may seem a little bit surprising, but we will talk about them a little bit more as we get to the specific teams. I'm thinking Asia, Scandinavia, a couple of those that may seem odd if you aren't familiar with their rosters this year.
Yeah, so, yeah, no, as Scoped said, just one more thing to point out, pots 1 and 2, again, are a bit different as seen compared to pots 3 and 4, but that just means that it's just going to be one team, per pot 1/2 in the different groups just to avoid potential kind of like the top two seeds, for example, as we see of England and US North to be in that same group just to avoid making or just to make the groups as fair as possible. So if you have nothing else, I think we could just get right into the pot 1 draws.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, that little bit of jitters there explaining those, but you did a good job reiterating what I said a little bit better, thankfully. But yeah, more than happy to get started with these groups here. Starting with, I believe, choosing which pot 1 team is going to be in either group. Indeed.
Yep.
So between US North and England, previous World Cup champions, and these are going to be the team that we're going to be presenting first and foremost, reigning champions of the Mario Kart Wii World Cup here. If you want to just get us started, Sparkster, with their lineup this year.
So yeah, first team being drawn out into Group A is Team England, and their roster that they're going to be using this year is Fear, Fred, Jazz, Luke, Ops, Rosen, Ryan, Seed, Xander, and Zach with their baggers. Most likely just going to be between Jazz and Seed. Yeah, as you said, yeah, no, defending champions, but the roster is a bit different as we did see compared to 2023 and then the attempted World Cup from last year. But the biggest change is definitely no Chi/Bo as we do see on this roster. Usually he is kind of one of the stronger players on the team, but maybe just due to not being able to play or just low motivation is not seen on the roster. But the biggest addition definitely to this team is Ops. Upcoming player, did amazing in D2, honestly. Played extremely well with YSL, MVP'd a lot of matches, and D2 is definitely what this team needs to potentially go back to back.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, Ops is definitely a very strong contender for, I don't want to say rookie, but in a World Cup setting, definitely a newer player, but that has a lot of potential going into this team. Obviously, you still have players like Xander and Rosen that were on AI this season, current D1 champions. You have Jazz, who's a very experienced D1 bagger in XI. You still have Zach, obviously, which was part of MA, second place team in D1. You just have a lot of just really strong D1 players in there. You have a lot of experience, a lot of new talent as well with Rosen, with Ops, with just younger players as a whole. You have a really great mix of that. Ryan is another good example of someone that has a lot of experience, a lot of good game IQ, really good at theory crafting, for example. Of course, Fred is... Of course, Fred and Seed as well as Fear as a potential backup bagger. Just a really strong lineup overall, absolutely deserving of that first seed, and absolutely has potential to go back to back. Though obviously, there's a lot of teams that are gunning for that crown, and the second Group 1 team, US North, is definitely one of those that we're gonna have to watch out for.
Yeah, and so I guess moving over, well, obviously we will be having US North going into the first spot into Group B. So if we can go to US North's roster, which they'll be using for this year, is Brody, Ethan or Krusty, Fresh, Frozen, Kaizo, Mura, Ornan, Revan, Ray, Snoopy, Swig, and TK. And yeah, similar to England, lots of depth, lots of D1 talent all around. Brody and Fresh have been playing with together in RZ for a couple seasons. Frozen, Mura, staple D1 players just all around. Lots of good depth. They could definitely cycle lots of roster players, and they could definitely compete with most, if not all, the teams that they will face in their group. And their baggers will most likely be between Kaizo, Snoopy, or Krusty, most likely.
Yeah, as mentioned as well, Ethan, part of that AI squad that just won Division 1. Ornan, that's part of IG. Just so much D1 talent, as you mentioned. Um, thankfully, thankfully for us, we don't have to see England or US North potentially eliminating one another immediately. We're gonna have to wait a little bit before these two Titans clash. But yeah, Frozen, Mura, part of the JX squad that came so close to defeating XI numerous times throughout their tenure. Just a lot of, once again, a lot of really strong talent. TK has been playing this game for years at this point. So has a lot of players on this team. Brody, as you mentioned, a really strong overall player, has been grinding this game for years at this point. Through, as well, just having a lot of official match experience with CTC as well, consistently up there. Doesn't seem that impressive, but it's more so just more tournament experience that would definitely help in such a high pressure situation as World Cup can be. And yeah, this is another team that are just going to be extremely impressive to watch overall, and has a lot of just all-star potential, and that are expected to easily breeze through this group stage and make it to the final eight, breeze through this group stage and make it to the...
Yeah, no, perfectly said there on US North there. And yeah, again, they just have so much talent. They could use honestly anyone here, and any bagger as well. Kaizo, Snoopy, and Krusty can all hold their own ground here. And then there's players such as, Swig and Ray, who have been, on the come up, playing high division D1, D2 for many seasons now. So maybe they could even slide in for a couple of matches. But yeah, no, that does end off the pot one teams here. So I think we could just move on to the next set of teams in pot two, which are going to be between Asia and Scandinavia.
Absolutely. Two pretty surprising teams to see in that top four seeding if you only looked at the previous World Cup last year. But yeah, definitely strong teams in their own right. Let's see who we're going to be talking about first, who's going to end up in that Group A here. both teams with a lot of potential, a lot of lots to talk about, and it seems that we are going to talk about Scandinavia first, who are going to end up in Group A alongside England. But yeah, Scandinavia, extremely strong roster this year, and most importantly, thanks to two players in particular, which will end up being Fox and Barney. Really surprising to see both of them, really. If you're used to World Cup, these are faces that you're not that you're surprised to see overall. They haven't played World Cup in a long while, but it seems that this year they are motivated to represent this region. Obviously, you have many other names such as Sharon, Marquis, Keon, Theodore, Pam, and Roy. Just a lot of really strong players overall. I'm thinking Sharon as well, that has been teammates with Barney and Fox for a while there. Pam also just a really strong player from MA. And yeah, just overall still an extremely strong team. Maybe a bit less depth than our top two, just due to roster size. You're maybe missing a few northern faces, such as Faisal, but still, this looks like an extremely strong roster, Sparkster.
Yeah, no, and if you again compare it to last year's World Cup attempt of kind of this team Nordic slash Scandinavia, yeah, you at first glance you would ask how the hell would this team be in pot two? But yeah, considering they were in the play-in stage last year, but with the addition of, as you said, Fox and Barney, and sort of like a VA kind of revival, we have players such as again Sharon and Roy playing again, and Pam, who's also just another staple D1 player who's been playing for many years now. So definitely not a team to sleep on as long as they just get that scrim practice in and just keep building, maybe just de-rusting potential chemistry. They could definitely, take this. They could take a match off of England as they are going to be in their group here.
Yeah, that's the match that I'm really excited to see overall. And as you mentioned, that is most likely going to be the most important parts about this Scandinavia squad. A lot of these players either haven't played at the highest level for a while, or just aren't as used to it nowadays. So that scrim practice from Team Scandinavia is going to be extremely important if they want to comfortably make their way through the group stage, since a lot of teams in the lower groups are extremely hungry. I've seen a lot of these teams just practice a lot nowadays, so Scandinavia definitely going to need to do some of that to keep up with their with what their fourth seed entails. And now we have another team that might be a bit surprising, another play-in team that has been upgraded to pot 2 standard in Asia here, that's going to be contending with US North. But in all honesty, I maybe it's a bit demeaning to call it that, but I would almost call this Team India plus, Sparkster.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that Team India, but kind of they were trying to actually create obviously a Team India for this year, but then, at first there wasn't any kind of motivation, but then Emil kind of just started convincing a few people such as Jaker and Backcake to join. So we did kind of get kind of a half Team India here, but with the roster of Fire, Emil, Jaker, Rahul, Yoshi, Chris, Z Devil, Crack, Josh, Smash, myself, Sparkster, Kairos, and Backcake. Yeah, no, definitely kind of, yeah, a Team India, maybe even an IG sort of team, as we have 3 of the 4 main LU IG players here of Emil, Jaker, and Backcake. And then a fourth of, we could slide in a lot of players. We have been playing a lot of scrims recently in the last week or so with mostly a main LU type of players. So we definitely are getting the chemistry in. We are getting the practice in. And yeah, in the bagging situation, there are 3 baggers. Just like in US North, it's going to be between me, Rahul, and Yoshi Chris, who are, again, all bag sort of high mid div. So definitely not any bagger to kind of just say no to. Any bagger could play and potentially compete with practice. But again, as same thing with Scandinavia, another team that was just like, how the hell are they in here? But when we do look closer into, yeah, just a complete upgrade, just because Team India isn't playing.
Yeah, just overall, seeing 3/4 of any D1 team in your roster absolutely deserve that top 4 seeding. But yeah, even players such as Z-Devil, constantly on LV, for example. Kairos, who has been competing in higher divisions recently as well. Obviously, Emil, Jaker, and Badcake, that alone is more than enough, but that roster still has depth, and hearing that you guys have been practicing quite a bit definitely helps justify that. And I feel like you could absolutely make a competitive case against US North. It would be a very interesting match to watch, like every top 2 seeding in any group, obviously, but I feel like it could definitely be pretty interesting to see. But yeah, with that, that's the top 4 seedings done. Those are the big heavy hitters that we're expecting to easily make it through the group stage. And after that, it maybe gets a little bit fuzzier. Maybe we can see quite a few upsets happening here. A lot of these teams are pretty hungry. But yeah, we're going to start with pot 3 with Australia, Canada, France, and US South being part of that pot 3, part of that 5th to 8th seeding here. And starting with the first member of Group A, we will end up with Canada. Another roster you were potentially a part of. But yeah, so starting with Canada in Group A here, still a really strong roster as well, obviously. We have for this roster, I am currently loading, RD, Blitz, Charmander, Ethan, Goober, Jack, Kit, Miwi, Noah, Nuke, Zesty, and Zilla. Really, that may be a bit more, less even roster than the top 4 seedings, but still some very strong names in there. Jack has been playing this game for years at this point. Zilla competing in Division 1 with RZ and Sixtens in CTs. Ethan, really strong bagger overall. Miwi, strong bagger as well. New consistently in RT high tier. Zesty as well, really experienced player overall. Already just so much raw experience on that roster. Definitely justifying that rather hefty seeding of theirs.
And definitely not a team to completely sleep on. There again, one of the staple teams that you do see in every World Cup that does happen. So they just have more World Cup appearances and experience compared to a lot of players and teams. But definitely the biggest hit on this team is compared to last year is just Thunder, as he has moved on to Mario Kart World. I think just Thunder did play that key role. That did help the team a bit. But again, compared to last year, those players have improved. Zilla and Goober, again, have played in RZ for a couple seasons now, and they have won Division 1, so definitely not players to sleep on. And similarly to US North, they could rotate a couple players. They don't really have a set main LU that they need to compete with all the teams.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Another decent hit to that lineup, more so when it comes to the bagging depth, is Adlo as well, that they had in the previous years. That does not end up showing up here. But yeah, Thunder definitely the biggest one to show here. Just an extremely strong, just players when it comes to just the fundamentals. Extremely strong player here that does not end up showing. But I would argue that players like Kit, like Zilla, like Nuke have kept improving enough that it might be able to bridge the gap. But yeah, there are definitely really hefty hits there that might end up shaking Team Canada. Maybe we'll see a few upsets here and there, but I definitely feel like they're still a very strong candidate to make that top 8, even with a potential loss to the number 1 and number 2 seed of their group, which in this case is England and Scandinavia. Now, seeing as we have two teams from each pool that will end up in each group, we're going to be alternating between Group A and B here. So the next team is going to end up in Group B between Australia, France, and US South. Let's see here what we end up with. The wheel has decided on US South, a team that's
close.
Yeah, definitely really on the edge there. But whereas you would be surprised to see a team like Asia or Scandinavia up there, you might be surprised to see US South a bit lower on the seeding than expected this year, with a roster of Andres, Bran, Gizbro, Ivan, Javo, Jay, Casper, Ken, Matey, Quinn, and Sam here.
Yeah, no. As you said, yeah, for a US team, kind of surprising to see them this low here. But again, compared to last year, some of those players have left. Most notably, Kairos and Backcake, who were both on US South and now on Asia, who are big hits to the team. Definitely play a huge role for this team. But still, other than Backcake and Kairos leaving, they still have a pretty good roster that have played together for a few years. One team notably we could say is KG with Javo, Casper, and Ken all playing together there for a couple seasons. So they definitely have that chemistry. So, and no excuse to other players such as Gizbro as well, who's been climbing the ranks recently with AI, definitely showing that he is capable of competing in Division One and high stake matches.
Absolutely, and you might have heard this little Discord ping here. Hello, Swig. Nice of you to join us here for this group drawing here. Happy to have you here. Um,
Hey
any input?
guys,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
sorry to cut you off. Glad I could join. I just had to, win an FFA tournament real quick. Not that serious though.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I was doing. But this US South team we're looking at here. Did you guys already discuss what you think the main lineup's gonna be? Because I think it's kind of up in the air. I think this team's got a good amount of depth to it.
We haven't. We have mainly discussed the big hit here, obviously being Batcake and oh shoot, the name is escaping me.
Good point. Good point. I haven't seen
Thank you.
Ken around much recently. I don't know if he'll be playing. But I would expect to see this team running a lot of Casper, Macy, Quinn +1. I've seen Bran in some scrims, Gizbro, Ivan, Javo all around, but Casper, Macy, Quinn are the three that have been there before and played for them in the past, so I would guess that they're going to be in a lot of lineups for them. Beyond that, I don't really know. They have good depth.
Yeah, they have good depth. They definitely should solidify on a fourth slot. Just considering the fact that it will help a lot with synergy, etc., might need to solidify that fourth slot before the group stage begin. Although rotating can definitely work, I feel like with such a strong core 3, you might want to try and solidify a core 4 to really help you get through that group stage with the hefty hits that we talked about earlier on. Have you seen the have you seen the drawings at all, Swig, or will this be a surprise for you?
I have looked. I did see that my US North are with Asia, and is that it so far, or is US South also?
No, Asia and US, yeah, just Asia and US South so far. We have gone through only 16 so far. We will go back to Group A for the next drawing here in Pool 3 with France and Australia remaining as the last two teams of Pod 3 to go into Group A here, and we'll see what the wheel decides on. Both teams that are actually pretty interesting to talk about here, and it seems that France is going to avoid the double US pool here with
basically triple, because Asia has a lot of Americans that playing for Asia.
That is true. That is essentially US 1, 2, and 3 here. But yeah, in all seriousness, my home country here of France, with a lot of players returning from last year. We have in total Big Brock, Byron, Fatal, Hakim, Ethior, Kazam, Luds, Knight, Shiv, Space, and Zoan. One notable absence here is obviously Shura, that's currently on Benelux's lineup. That just won the Plains yesterday, really. But yeah, so overall, a really strong lineup. And of course, you see a lot of players returning from the France team that competed in Division 2 this season, with obviously Fatal, Ethior, Luds, Knight, just extremely strong perennial players of this region as a whole, and a lot of players obviously returning from last year's World Cup as well.
Yeah, what makes this team so different compared to all the other World Cup teams is just they have so much more chemistry because they actually play in a league which is GSC. They actually play in a full GSC season as a team. No other team actually does that, so they get such a huge advantage when it comes to actually team building, team morale building, chemistry, etc. Over all those other teams. So they could definitely use that to their advantage to maybe pull a couple of upsets.
Yeah, Allez le bleu, man. I mean, this team got kind of the chemistry bonus over some other teams. Like a lot of these national teams are kind of like mix and match D1 and D2 teams. I like how they actually play GSC together and scrim together a lot, so that will definitely help. Some key players from this team. I mean, Byron plays a lot of lounge and scrims and stuff, and he's very good. So I'm interested what he can do. He's probably one of the newer ones from the established core on this team. Kazam played D1 a couple seasons. I don't know if he will be playing much, but Knight, Istior, Fatal been playing on France for years and always make their mark. So I feel like this team is gonna play some different lineups. They got a lot of names they can turn to, Shiv and Zoan in space too, Hakeem. So I think this team has different things they can throw at people. Is how I'd put it.
Yeah. Just one little footnote. Speaking of Byron, I actually interviewed Luds last year in preparation for this World Cup, and Luds actually did mention that Byron last year was one of the highest potential players on the French squad as a whole. So really excited to see what he brings to this World Cup, in particular, seeing that development, as you mentioned, plays a lot of lounge, plays a lot of scrim. So really excited to see him in this World Cup setting, in particular, obviously alongside the French core that has a lot of D1 and Division 2 experience at this point in many teams, such as Daisy, for example. I'm thinking of Fatal and Luds as a big example of that. But yeah, pretty excited to see them duke it out in our Group A here. And finally, our last team for Group B is going to be Australia. A team with a lot of new talent, a lot of young talent. Pretty excited to see what they end up bringing to the table with their lineup this year, being Bop, Barry, Bran, George, Lockie, Matthew, Nuclear, Slick, and Star.
Yeah, this team, obviously they have Barry as like their main guy who's been leading the charge for the past couple of years. I'd say their ceiling is how far Barry can take them, for sure, but they do have great other pieces as well. Lockie, really good on RTs and CTs, been working his way through the ranks recently. Nuclear, been playing for years, great player. And then Matthew, who's a really good time trialer, and I've played, his fair share of GSC2. I'm sure he can bring that into the World Cup as well. So I like what this team's got going on. I like them as like an underdog pick if you guys want to see a less successful historical nation to make some noise this year. What do you guys think?
I don't know if you want to go first, Sparkster, but I definitely have a lot to say about this team overall. Barry, obviously current D1 champion and a very good form, I would like to mention as well, has played exceptionally well in the D1 finals against MA, so definitely a very strong player currently. Lockie also just improved immensely over the past year. Actually current winner of the CT World Cup, funnily enough, so could maybe go for a double trophy here with quite a few upsets. But yeah, extremely strong player, has improved a lot over the past year, and obviously you still have decently strong very strong baggers in Bop and Star with overall just a really decent lineup overall. It may not look like it with a smaller roster than some of these other nations, but I do believe Australia is definitely a dark horse going into this tournament as a whole.
Yeah, definitely agree. And yeah, going back to the baggers that you said, yeah, Bop and Star, very strong baggers. Bop bagging with JX for many seasons in the past. And I don't know if you guys saw that YouTube video, but they definitely have an interesting way of calling shocks, as Bop kind of controls how shocks are being called by Team Australia, which could potentially give them an upper edge on some of the races. If they do pull shock, that could completely catch some teams off guard. So maybe a secret edge that they could use on some of the races.
That's actually a good point. I've seen describe Bop as like an innovative bagger. I've seen him like, develop new strats and stuff. He's always trying to find some new tech. So I think having a bagger like that can kind of adapt and do different things and look beyond like the box of just standard bagging strats is very beneficial for a big stage tournament like this. So I totally agree that this team will be a good dark horse pick.
Yeah. A lot of to talk about this Team Australia as a whole, and this will end up rounding out our pool 3 picks here, with both groups now having a solid 4 teams. And now for our pool 4, with recently added Benelux, as mentioned, winner of the play-in match between them and Team Africa here, with Italy, Ireland, Africa, and not Africa, sorry, with Latin America and Benelux being the last 4 members added to these group stages here. And let's see what ends up being the first team called into Group A here. And it'll be Team Italy, or historically the Sal Squad, as a lot of people would like to call them, with a full roster of Ice, Alex, Cross, Gala, Liuk, Raz, Sal, and Scamp being their full roster this year. Still a very solid roster for Pool 4, I gotta say.
Yeah, this is another team a lot like France that benefits just from having a lot of history together, playing in teams like Fly over the years outside of just the World Cup, but also a lot of experience in the World Cup. You mentioned Sal. I mean, he's kind of been there. He's been their big dog since like COVID days, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. He's had a lot of successful D2 seasons recently, as well as some D1 appearances. And then the rest of the lineup, Alex, Raz, Cross, all have their experience in higher divs, all pretty active players, and all very familiar with each other. I think Scamp as their bagger, or Ice, I don't know who they're going to turn to. I would assume Scamp because he has a lot of D1 experience, so that's very helpful. It's always frustrating when a really good team isn't able to string together a good bagger alongside that, and I don't think Italy has this problem. So I do definitely expect them to be one of the stronger teams out of the bottom pot this tournament.
Yeah, could definitely pull off quite a few upsets here with the, as you mentioned, the experience that they have together. Granted, they are in quite the strong pool here, so we're gonna have to see what they can manage to scrounge up together. But synergy definitely not an issue here. Any comments on the lineup overall, Sparkster?
Yeah, I think as long as, yeah, as you say, if they do use that, does look like a main OU of Sal, Alex, Cross, and Raz. If they do, use that lineup, and they do have that advantage because they have been one of those active teams that do scrim, mostly. They do search and war chats most days, so they are getting that practice in more than other teams with that main LU that I just said. So if they do actually use that in most matches, they could potentially get one, maybe 2 upsets to maybe sneak in to a 4th place in their group, maybe even 3rd.
Definitely
Sure,
a
anything can happen.
yeah, definitely
Sorry.
potential for the upsets, as we mentioned earlier on with this lineup in particular. But yeah, they're very strong very strong lineup out of a pool 4 here. Next pool 4 team is going to end up in Group B with the triple US pool, as I see some people in chat already nicknaming this Group B. Gonna have to see between Ireland, Latin America, and Benelux who ends up being on this squad here. Let's see what the
The
wheel
American
decides on.
bloodbath. I'm gonna coin that term. The
The
American.
American bloodbath. If we see Latin America in there, definitely would be a
Yeah.
correct good way to call them. And we are actually going to have our Benelux squad, our play-in winners, being the next team to be presented with. A team that we already presented yesterday here with a lineup of Olifre, Shura, Dragonfly99, Indy, or Weeksy, Joris, Leon, Leonardo, May, Ruben, and Thomas here. Definitely surprisingly strong lineup for a play-in team with their obviously notable absences being Leops and Jeff that have stepped down from World Cup this season, that have been their dynamic duo for the past couple of years here, with the addition of Shura, poached from Team France, their perennial Daisy player here. So definitely a team that has moved a lot over the past couple of years here, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
you can go ahead if you want, Sparkster.
yeah, I was gonna say, and they did play yesterday in that play match against Team Africa, and a few takeaways that I did see is that other than the GP3, which was mostly dominated by Africa, they did dominate most of the races, and it was just due to the fact that they had just more experience, more World Cup appearances. Thomas and Olafray had a total of 30 World Cup appearances, just them two, while Africa had 3 people on their debuts. So that just definitely helped them take that advantage, just less nerves overall. And that's going to help them going into the group stage now, just having mostly less nerves compared to other teams who could have potential debuts, while this team just has so much more experience in the World Cup. They're used to this type of pressure.
Sure, yeah, you did mention they are missing their prior star power with Jeff and Leops, and they also don't have Nick, so no Luxembourgish representation, which is quite unfortunate. But that's okay. Still have a great roster of some Belgians and a bunch of Dutch players. The Dutch players have played a GSC season before, so like I mentioned with some other teams, they have that experience outside of the World Cup and have played together in various teams, like May and Leonardo playing in Daisy, for example, things like that, and KG. I like their baggers. I like Yoris a lot. Very experienced, and a lot of these of the lower potted teams have that same kind of theme where they just have a lot of players that have been around for a long time and have stuck together and experience in higher divisions. And even teams that like, even though they're lacking some of their previous star players, they clearly know how to play together. And then I totally agree that adding a Daisy and Shura very helpful for some of the big runners like BCWE, DCAM, and so hopefully they'll be able to take advantage of those.
Yeah, and you notice as well, whereas a lot of, for example, D1 teams have that dedicated Daisy players, quote unquote, you see that a lot in the higher, even in the high seeded teams, you don't necessarily have like that dedicated Daisy player. So that can be something that Benelux try and potentially exploit here going into this group stage. Could definitely be interesting. One last comment that I do want to make about Benelux regarding the absence of Jeff and Leop, especially Jeff, might be a benefit to Team Benelux's mental in general. Jeff is notably someone that has not necessarily terrible attitude, but can be pretty difficult to work with. So maybe it'll be a bit of a benefit in terms of overall long-standing mental throughout that group stage. Can maybe be something that Benelux can maybe rely a bit more on as they go through as the bottom seed of their group.
The vibes might be high. Maybe Benelux will be smiling their way to the victory. We'll see.
Who knows? Anything can help in this situation as the bottom seed of one group. But in all seriousness, we have now our last team for Group A that is going to be drawn here between Latin America and Ireland here as the last team of Group A. And let's see what the wheel decides on here. Will we see an all-American group? No, we won't. The last American team will end up in Group A alongside England, Scandinavia, Canada, France, and Italy for the final lineup of this Group A here, with the Latin American lineup this year being Snoki, Doze, Psycho, KA, Mephisto, Stripe, Volumes, Agar, Mike, Victor, and Nact. Obviously, just watching the lineup for the first time, Mike is absolutely the name that steps out here. A lot of Division 1 experience overall. Do you still have some very solid players overall in Victor, Agar, Psycho, Mephisto? Just so a lot of, once again, you did mention that a lot of players in this pool 4 just with a lot of experience, a lot of players that we have noticed for a while now, with some younger players like Volumes, I believe making his first appearance in World Cup, but I might be wrong on that.
I think so. I think so.
I think so, but I will call that 95% confident on that matter. I might get corrected in chat. We'll see. But yeah, still a very diverse lineup as expected for a region as large as Latin America is.
Yeah, a lot of representation of different Latin American countries, which is cool, and just representation of people from different cliques around the community. Not a ton of overlap in this team like you would see from other teams, but like you said about Mike, he's like their glue guy that's been with them forever and has the most high div experience. I like them having Znoki around this year. I haven't seen him over the past couple months, but he did hit Grandmaster last season. Obviously, very good player, very, very good player, and should be a good addition to the team if he decides to play. And then they got a lot of different guys they can go to. Dose, been around for years as well, obviously. D1, D2 experience. Psycho, KA, same kind of thing. Psycho had a lot of success with LV recently, might I add. And then Victor, I've played with Victor a bunch. Very good player, very fast. So if he's around, I hope they can turn to him too. I'm not sure what kind of main lineup they want to run. I would guess something along the lines of like Mike, Snoki, Dose, and then Psycho or Victor. I don't really know, but they have a lot of different options they can throw out, so we'll see what they do.
Yeah, and as you guys said, Mike is the kind of that glue of the team, but as he has been playing CTs more recently, it kind of all depends on how much he's actually determined to actually start practicing RTs again, because from what I've talked with him about he is not really interested in D1 GSC anymore. He would rather only play D1 CTs just because D1 RTs is just too much of a grind, which is a fair point. But I think for him is just how much does he actually want to de-rust on? And then yeah, as you said, from the scrims that Asia have played against LTA, Znoki's definitely going to be the player to watch out for. He is just improving at an insane pace, and for as a young player, has so much more potential that we could see in the future weeks coming up as Latin America plays.
Yeah, another potential dark horse team that may make waves a little bit for their placements in Pool 4. And with that being said, that means we also have our Group B finally selected, with Ireland becoming their last member here with spinning the wheel for the love of the game. But yeah, Ireland is going to end up being our last team in Group B with the triple US squad of US North Asia, US South, Australia, Benelux, and Ireland being their final player and final member and final team that we will end up presenting here in this little cast, with quite the hefty lineup here of Cormac, Cillian, Dermo, Jaro, Judge, LT, Luke, Matt, Enlaw, Sean, Trashy, and Yuto. Gotta say, quite the varying levels in terms of just skill between these players. You have obviously Cormac as their leader, just in general, has been playing with Ireland for years. Dermo has had a lot of high-level experience when it comes to bagging. LT extremely strong. I gotta say, LT probably one of the fastest improving players in this squad by far. But a lot of members with a lot of experience as well. We see Jaro in here, obviously a lot of IDIV experience, and Law has played this game for a while now. Just overall, there's still quite a bit of experience for this team, even in Pool 4, as we mentioned, which seems to be a consistent trend here with these Pool 4 teams.
Yeah, I mean, this team, they have some additional pieces they haven't had in the past, but the core remains the same of that Cormac, Jaro, LT, Sean kind of grouping. I'm not 100% sure if Sean's going to play. He's very off and on with the game, but he usually comes around during World Cup, so I haven't been able to confirm that with Cormac and Jaro. I haven't been 100% sure if that's the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But regardless, Cormac and Jaro played together a lot in GSC over the past few seasons, and they have guys like LT. They have Enlaw if they want to turn to, which I think is a great option. Like we've talked about, having that Daisy in the rotation. And then Dermo, I mean, he's the heart and soul of this team. There's no passion in this game quite like Dermo. So I think having that as the bagger is very good. You're never going to get a lapse of focus from him.
Any last comments on that lineup, Sparkster, or?
No, you guys have, as you said, no, just gonna just be a kind of that main duo of Cormac and Jaro, who have played with ZC for a few years together, and then lots of rotational players that they could use. There's not really a definitive main LU, or I guess best four players that I see in my eyes. I think they could use a lot of kind of third and fourth players to compete with the other teams.
Yeah, definitely so. Still some potential for upsets, maybe a bit less so realistically than some other Pool 4 teams that we have talked about, some Pool 3 teams I've talked about, but still definitely has their chances in these little mid-seeding scuffles that we're bound to see in both of these groups. But yeah, either way, we do have our final groups here for these 12 teams separated between these two groups. Thoughts on those groups overall, gentlemen?
I think these groups look pretty balanced. You can go first if you want, Sparkster.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, the matches that are going to be most exciting, as Scoped said, is definitely going to be from Group A, England and Scandinavia, and then the triple USA, as we've liked to call it throughout this stream, between US North, US South, and Asia. Definitely going to be the matches to watch for all the viewers. So
yeah, I think Group B looks like it's probably going to be the more chaotic group. I would expect a bit more dominance from England and Canada than US, North, South, or Asia, because I think they're all going to take from each other a little bit more, as well as Australia, who I think could knock a match off anyone, or even Benelux and Ireland on their best day. The other group, I think it's going to be a little bit more top dominant, but you never know because we've talked about France and Italy's history together. And then Latin America just having a lot of different talent throughout the team they've thrown together. So that's the beauty of the big stage. You never really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, on any given day, you can absolutely see an upset in either group, which we're going to keep following, obviously, over the course of these next couple of weeks here with both those group stages. Obviously, top 4 teams of every of both groups end up going to the following finals brackets, which will most likely end up really enjoying over the overall. But yeah, definitely really excited to see how these groups end up developing. Really excited to see these top teams, especially some more surprising teams like Scandinavia, how they end up playing throughout this group stage overall. Overall, just really happy to be part of this. Really happy to hopefully be casting quite a few of these matches after, unfortunately, having to drop the World Cup last year. But yeah, just really, really happy to see this develop. Happy to see these 12 teams scuffle. And overall, also obviously thanks to Astro for hosting this, getting all this together, this whole group draw. Obviously the unsung hero, allowing us to yap about these teams for a good hour.
Yes, thank you, Astro, for being so committed to getting this going. I hope we get more casts in the future. Thank you guys for letting me hop on a little bit late. I'm glad I could share some of my opinions and my narratives for this World Cup. But yeah, I hope everyone watching stays tuned for future matches. It should get more interesting the later we get into the tournament, so stick around as long as you can.